Hello, this is my presentation about Technology and Human Values project by Jorge Iniguez. A conversation before I took this class would probably look like this picture: space, emptiness, because I wasn't really aware about the issues that technology was posing in modern day human civilization until we took this class and until the second half of the semester that I started to get an insight. My keyword with this title is Insight for a reason because before taking this course, I had no idea that the second half of the semester we would engage in a series of interesting discussions about technology. One of the key arguments topics that I got from these discussions was the fact that we're constantly being watched, recorded, archived, surveilled, analysis, monetized, and datafied, which equals controllable and manipulatable. I said that this type of technology messes more with morals because many people have made arguments that it is not morally right to always be watched or to always be watching someone's every move. So this is just an example how before this class I was kind of like this picture says lost and found, because if you were to ask me how is technology changing the way we do stuff, I would not have had a proper argument or a philosopher to help me support my reasoning, which I do now. And this philosopher I think is very important. I think he should be studied in high school as well. His name is John Paul Start. Said the Start made the argument that freedom and responsibility are interlocked. Beings that are humans are free to make all kinds of choices. Key figure of existentialism. It's a philosophy of human freedom and it articulates how human beings are freedom. Stated that we are a subject, a being for itself, and we are defined by our transcendence, freedom, since we can choose what we want. My argument, based on after learning about him, was that to some degree, some will argue that being watched all the time limits our freedom and would go against what Start said, that we are free to make all kind of choices. Surveillance limits the freedom of people because many do not like to be watched or have every bit of their information tracked so they can go against doing things the way they normally would. And this is just to further support the idea that if you were to ask me before this class, if I'm a philosopher that kind of connects with what's going on in modern day technology, I would be lost until I took this course. And I thought it was really cool how we talked about technology and how we saw the Netflix episodes, because it kind of gave us an idea that that could potentially be our future, because we're not too far from it in the advancements of AIs and how technology is changing the way that people think and do stuff. Before I go on to my next slide talking about the Netflix episodes, I just found these pictures online that kind of support a little bit of my reasoning for why I would not like to be brought back like how Ash did. First of all, there's no feelings in a robot. We saw that in the episode, it made it very clear. Second of all, you're a robot, you're made out of material, plastic, metal, electronic, computers, but there's no meat or flesh or bones inside you anymore. And not to mention, uh, if you can't feel love, then that feeling's a waste because you're not living anymore. To further support my arguments, these were the arguments that I came up with. I said that it leaves a devastating impact on his lover, eventually their child, because they couldn't move on, as we saw in the episode. His lover couldn't move on, and it got so bad to the point where she had to keep him in the attic. But the problem was that the daughter couldn't move on either, because every time it was her birthday, she wanted to go see her dad. Not to mention the robot Ash is like a child because he needs years of knowledge before he can even get back to where he was before he died. What I mean by this is that he needs a lot of care and attention, kind of like a child, obviously, because he doesn't know what Ash before the crash would do until his lover would tell him that's not what Ash would do, that's not what Ash would say. So he's learning, and but The thing is, she was like in her late 20s, early 30s. By that time, it's just kind of like you're fostering a child, so it just ruins the experience, obviously. He always must be with the parent, the person who programmed him, and can't leave a certain radius where he was programmed unless told otherwise. Again, it's just reinforcing the idea that he really can't do stuff by himself. He needs that person to program him to be with him almost at all times. So, again, it's a child. He doesn't think like a human, he does not eat or sleep. Kind of defeats the purpose of a basic human. The fact that if you're sitting down to eat and your partner's not eating or he's not sleeping would really creep me out. But I feel like the biggest emphasis that I want to make is that he has no feelings. We saw in the sex scene and we saw in the cliff scene how he didn't know how to act because he has no feelings, because he's a robot. He can't really feel emotions. And I feel like that defeats the purpose of a human if you can't have feelings for what you're doing.